All right. Welcome, Scott Lemriel. Robert Scott Lemriel is an amazing man that I have recently come across. I saw his two of his videos, a part 1 and part 2, on YouTube from the International UFO Conference in Bergen, Norway, that just occurred this last fall. And the thing that really struck me about Scott was the energy with which he delivers his information and that he presents some really, those of us that have been seekers and receivers for a while, even you will find him incredibly refreshing, but most importantly, inspiring. His energy is very sincere, and his information interfaces with a lot of the information that was shared with me from the Arcturians. So I'm going to just let Scott go and get out of his way. He's got lots to tell us. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. I always like to get on radio or in person, and especially in the last 2 years when I began this process. It is because of my friends from very far out of town that this whole thing began, and including the writing of the Series Agenda book. Wasn't flawless when it first came out. There were typos, and I had to put out, this is the 3rd edition that's out now in just 2 years. So in May, I wanted to tell people I'm putting out a 4th edition, which will have a section in the back, I've just about finished writing it, that will have special techniques for each single chapter. There are 30 of them. So people can work with those techniques to explore purposefully hidden truth and have their own direct experiences with the hidden truth that's revealed in each chapter. That's coming up in May. The 3rd edition's fine. It has this how to do the special hue in the back of the glossary and characters and terms. So people can work with it right now. But it's a work in progress, like me or you or the rest of the people of this planet.
The tone I'm excited about, yeah, definitely.
I'm going to put another book, the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy, which was written prior to the Series Agenda. That'll be out in May as well, and I'm hiring a top-level editor proofreader to go through that with me. I'm taking it out of the hands of the publisher, which didn't do a very good job as far as I'm concerned, and I'm doing it and then putting it back through that doorway or another, so it'll be fine. It'll be where it needs to be.
It's going to be awesome. It's a wonderful, I explored your website. It's paralleltime.com, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Anybody that goes there, wow, you're gonna be there for quite some time because there's so many amazing nooks and crannies to explore. Yeah,
yes,
that's quite an amazing place for sure.
You know, much of my life was also in writing books and screenplays as well, so I always had a great interest in the film business. But from the perspective of revealing hidden truth through what people call fiction or whatever. In fact, my book, I have to say this first on the air. It's very important that people know this is a very careful thing I had to do to get this published through a publisher the way I did. And it's fictional only to the degree that the names of the characters and locations of certain events have been changed to protect the great mass of people on this planet, until after a coming, unexpected, entirely unexpected, uplifting transformation is more openly underway. And it's like the old Dragnet TV series, you know. Names of characters have been changed into events to protect the innocent.
Yep.
Long ago, many decades ago. Okay, it's kind of like that. So when people read it, I only write about and put out in the world what I've directly experienced myself. So everything in the Series Agenda is relative to what I've directly experienced. This is what I want to share with people, not for my ego or for money or fame, but because when they begin to work with the information that's in the book, it begins to turn on certain things in the pineal gland, which has been purposefully shut down in people here through the misuse of extraterrestrial technology, and it's a long story, and we'll get into that. However, this special vibratory word hue is not native to this planet. In fact, it's not native to billions of years of galactic history. It predates that. And extraterrestrial benevolent races utilize this word to keep from ever acquiring a subconscious mind. Because normal human beings are not meant to have a subconscious mind. Wow. If you have a subconscious mind, it means you're not aware of what's there. And that's how people are controlled. Many people were brought to this planet as slave labor forces under treaty, different little pockets of the earth to mine and do things like this in its ancient past. Tyrants, when they bring such beings to this planet, when they leave them behind. They're expendable. And what they've done to people, and this isn't just in recent history on this earth, but off-world as well. If you go back 500,000 years, just before the end of a galactic war in our Milky Way galaxy, many planets were destroyed at that time. There was a human planet that developed a technology to keep beings, and this is the being, not the body or the brain, from ever acquiring a subconscious mind, because terrorizing control mechanisms can be implanted there without your awareness, without even feeling it, that it's being done. You use a very low frequency wave, you use it as a carrier wave, and they put graphic images in there, in the electromagnetic field around the body, not in the brain. These kind of implants are not the little electronic chips that the military-industrial complex developed here, trying to do the same thing their extraterrestrial allies could do without the chips. So they did it in an electronic way. That's where that came from.
That's where that came
from. The actual implantation is not with little chips under your skin. It's more subtle than that. And that goes back to that world. When they developed this technology during this war, a particular extraterrestrial race conquered them and then forced their scientists to twist this technology to create implants, to create subconscious minds in people. The other thing that they did was shut down certain genomes on the DNA. One of the things they shut down was longevity, because a normal human being on other world systems, the beings that I'm in touch with, live at least 1,000 years or more. They have photographic memories at birth, all of them, and they are telepathic. They speak with words, but they also communicate in holographic imagery so that the communication is not distorted. If you want to control beings and use them as a slave labor force, and you're not a respecter of human beings, she shut down 3 things in particular. Longevity, so that you live no more than 100 years, where your captors or mentors live at least 1,000. You can't compete against it. Shut down your photographic memory capability and your telepathy. And you cannot plug into the universe to remember what you should innately be able to know with certainty, without doubt. Okay?
Makes such
so
sense.
This is where this starts. It goes back in galactic history a long ways, and people on Earth are fully capable of understanding several things. They're fully capable of understanding what this omnipresent force is that's a living force they're made of. They're made of the same thing as the source that supports and sustains all life. The pineal gland in the center of the brain has a liquid in it. It's about the size of the end of your thumb, with a vein going in and out, strongest blood flow for the size anywhere in the body. And it's connected to the optic nerve. In it are rods and cones, just like those you have in your eye, but these are not tuned to perceive light and sound frequency in the physical reality from your body, from what's around you. They're designed to tune into precise locations out in the solar system, out in the universe, and into higher dimensions. They're like a telecommunications system in your head.
That makes perfect sense.
It's also the doorway that the Atma, what beings from other worlds call soul, leaves the body on other normal human planets. And this is not one, not yet. Human beings leave their bodies, I mean, they're taught to do this at birth. This is not a mystery to normal human beings. I know people on Earth think it's such an incredibly glorious thing to be able to rise into some spirituality, and it is, except that they already knew how to do that long ago and it was taken from them. People call it karma now. God did it to us. That's not exactly right. Different beings on different levels of advancement did that to human beings at different times, in different circumstances in the universe, going back several billion years. This also involved the Andromeda Galaxy, our next door neighbor. And beings there are much more liberated from this kind of thing. And I would say, here's the thing that's really hard for people to grasp. In 1/4 of our Milky Way galaxy alone, there are over 450 million highly evolved spacefaring races. Think about how dumbed down people are here not to know that. What's keeping them from having a reaction with it even? And they should be able to just look in the universe and know it. So it is very clever what's been done here, especially in the last 60 years. But it didn't begin here on this planet. And it didn't begin here in the industrial age. It goes back a long ways. So for people to get really clear on this, my words mean nothing except as an inspiration for people to be able to access a certain technique that will provide two things: an opening door to perceive again, begin to wake up their higher faculties, because it begins to just gradually remove these implants. And that's one thing. And the other thing is, when a person begins to use this, they find out there is a certain protection that goes along with its use now that wasn't there before about 4 years ago for people on this planet. It was very tough. So they need, what's important is that people experiment with this and find this out through their own direct experience. That's why I do what I do, to give them the information, wake up certain things through these talks, because they know, come to the surface. And then when they start to work with the hue and experience what this ray does, and they can look through the book and trace it, and they'll be able to go through it in their own lives, then it becomes their wisdom and their knowledge and their natural ability to know what and who they are that isn't the physical body, and not make it such a big deal. Because if a person here were suddenly transported to just one of the normal human planets outside of Earth, they would think they'd gone to heaven. People there are living normal lives. They can leave their bodies at will. They remember all their other lives when they're born in the Pleiades or somewhere else. And they actually, in English, if we interpret it, they actually call this vast organization of world systems, which is much bigger than the Pleiades. They call it the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. It's interdimensional because there's 144 parallel dimensions. That's a special of living beings on planets, in physical forms, on many world systems, in slightly higher vibrations from this one, before you even get to what's called the lower astral plane. And spacefaring races have learned how to traverse those parallel dimensions, so they have trade and harmonious relationship amongst all those vast number of worlds. So there's so many world systems out there. At some point, the overpopulation on this planet will be taken care of, but not by killing anyone. There should be more than 500 million people on any one planet this large. For ecological reasons, health reasons, so people have space and the freedom to move around. The technology to make this planet free of all radioactive isotopes, nuclear weapons, dissolve cars virtually overnight into useful self-generating products that use a form of energy that is not nuclear and doesn't even use any energy, no disease, getting rid of mice in the environment that are harmful, turning on genomes that have been shut down. This is a piece of cake for these people. This is stuff they are way beyond expert in. And they're very loving, very benevolent, and they've been waiting. It's not that they haven't had the technology to transform this planet. They've been waiting for a time, a very long time, to acquire a tool, you might call it a spiritual tool, that allows them to do this without revenge or hatred, because it eliminates karma. If you realize that tyrants, hidden government people here, political parties like the Democrats and the Republicans, and certain races off-world that are tyrant, imperialistic, royal bloodline types of races, there are a few, powerful, but not very many, compared to the vast majority. When you realize, and you go back far enough in galactic history, we've discovered that this terrible implantation process was done to them a long time ago, over 500,000 years ago, by a more tyrant race. And they've been running around being the terrorizing factions in this universe ever since, just short of going to war. They've broken this off-world treaty so many times it's not worth the paper it's written on. This is all coming to a head. But more importantly, it's coming to a head off-world. Because if they can't solve the tyrant extraterrestrial problem first out there, you can't permanently solve it here. It just comes back. So it's a much bigger thing, the Sayre's agenda and what I share with people, than it looks like it is on the surface. It goes way out into creation. And the tool that they have, that the Sayre's race acquired first, was given to them from beings who had brought into creation a whole new way of running things. It was filtered down through the planes, and the first race that it came to was the Sayre's. The Sayre's were basically invisible in galactic history. You don't hear about them in UFO circles. You don't hear about them on radio. This is new because this is a race that are human, that are 18 to 25 feet tall. They are not the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are reptilian. If you'll notice our recent history on this planet, there are pockets like Sumerian and Mayan and Yucatan, in Egypt, different places. They all had setups of imperial bloodlines. This is the influence of a reptilian alien bipedal race. They are a race which has gained either influential or direct control of the tall grays you've probably heard about and the little short guys that go around messing with people. These beings are not in control of what they do any more than the hidden leaders on this planet are. They lost that freedom the moment the National Security Act was signed under Truman, and the moment Eisenhower signed a treaty with the wrong crowd. He was blackmailed into it. So we can get into that if you want, but I wanted to bring some of this up so people will start to think about this. And more importantly, when we get through towards the end of the program, I want to demonstrate exactly for people how they can go about connecting with this hue into the vast knowingness that has been suppressed in them, wake it up and be provided with the protection to do so. It doesn't matter what negative beings are out there. It doesn't matter what misused extraterrestrial technology is being wielded through the satellite system. When you start to you actually start a person actually starts to get connected to beings who hear you doing it, who listen out there, and who know how to tune into it. And then certain events and circumstances, both spiritually and physically, begin to cross your path. That's important.
Yeah, I think that people really need to hear that.
You know, people have their experience themselves, all that matters to me. I'm not interested in getting glorified from any of this. I'm just a person like you. You know, when you really go out of your body into the upper worlds, above what the void of the Buddhists, where they think that's the end-all and be-all. It isn't. There are many higher planes. When you go up there, and you traverse these spaces, you learn that there's only one thing and one purpose for your being there, to help solve the greater problems of the source, of the supreme being behind all life, of which we are made of exactly the same energy on a smaller scale. We're meant to become co-creators with it, trusted co-creators with it, and many beings in our physical universe, in physical bodies that travel in spaceships, also can directly project between planets in their atmoself, their true being. They do both. This is not a mystery to them. And it shouldn't be for people on Earth. That's normal. So what we're saying here is we're looking for the first time to have a normal human planet. The Sayre's have a certain mentors who are billions of years old. They're way beyond human. The Sayre's are beyond human, while their origins are human. They're called the silent mentors, or the silent ones. Nice. They are so advanced. These beings have no limitations upon them. They run the mechanics of creation. They keep galaxies revolving, planets spinning, and portals between parallel dimensions and higher planes all operating. Wow. That's who they are. Wow. The mentors of the Sayre's were the silent ones, so they're pretty far up the scale. They immortalized their physical bodies almost 1 billion years ago, after first bringing into creation, in this, the Andromeda, and many other galaxies, human, humanoid, and many other highly evolved, sentient beings that eventually developed to become spacefaring. Not just spacefaring, but leave their body and explore other higher worlds as well. And once they did that, they vanished. The series just disappeared. It's kind of like left everybody on their own. One of the things that was brought into creation a long time ago is what people call evil. The negative things that happen in their life in order to cattle prod them into working to a higher consciousness, because long ago people were selfish, And they weren't really moving. They weren't really creating or co-creating properly. They hadn't developed the love for all life, which gives them a fiery passion to only use their creative imagination to create that which is of benevolent nature that is good for all life, not just life on their planet, not just life for their one galaxy, not even their dimension. We're meant to think and live like this. That's a normal human being.
You're making me cry.
So, that's what's coming. I mean, that's what's underway right now. It's in my power that does this. I just happen to be fortunate that I explored this stuff and left my body at an early age, and then kept silent about it for 60 years. Even my mother, who's alive today, didn't know I had extraterrestrial contacts until this book draft was finished and she read it. I kept silent. I had to.
See, this is so I want people to hear what you're saying, because this is so much a part of so many people who are in the shadows. They're on the peripheral of all of this, and they haven't been exposed to things that validate this for them. And when I say you're making me cry, it's not really that you're making me cry. It's just it's being able to share at this level with another person that fills my heart and reminds me why I'm here, and that my struggle was worth it, just like your struggle was worth it. It brings people together in a way that there is nothing else out there right now that's going to bring us together but the heart and the understanding that we don't have to settle for this, that there's so much more. Anyway, go ahead.
The thing that people get caught in, and rightly so, you can't blame people on this planet because they don't have the free will they really think they have.
I know.
That's a problem. That's been taking people here. So the people are beginning to acquire back this free will that was been missing or suppressed in them. And they don't get much confirmation from this from others. There's many people in the UFO, what I call the UFO gravy train. It's not an insult. I'm not being rude to anyone. Brilliant people, PhDs and master's degrees, writing books about stuff they've heard on the internet about extraterrestrials and grays and implants and secret bases and all that, all of which is true. It's all true, but what good does it do anybody to know that stuff if the tyrants who are controlling people know that you don't have the power to set this free? But a much, huge, vast organization of world and planetary systems, and the people that inhabit them do know how to solve this problem. And it had to come to them making the decision to do it. For them to intervene to keep this planet from having nuclear war 12 times during the Cold War with the former Soviet Union, they had to do it. They knew they were breaking a treaty agreement with some tyrant races, but the tyrant races had broken it so much that the only thing that kept them from going to war out there was the tyrant races would use several races out in front of them to do their dirty work. So when they get caught, they get shot down. Abducting people or torturing things that went on for years. It's been stopped, by the way, already. But they would use other races, because if the little gray guys go out and pick someone up and mess with them, and they get caught and shot down, the reptilian race stays in the background. They pride themselves on being, and they're very arrogant, the most clever, covert manipulators of deception in the universe. Can you imagine this millions-of-year-old race, right, was once defeated in a war, and yet they're allowed to be free under treaty, to still have worlds, to still have slaves, to still do what they do in their own systems. If they can't get any more planets, they beg, borrow, or steal, or break a treaty to get another piece of property, like Earth, just short of going to all-out war. Because if they went to all-out war, they would lose. But they would destroy this planet on their way out, because they're bad losers. Yeah. They've done it in other worlds. They brought a bomb with them about the size of a barrel. It's in the Amazon jungle underground. And if they were kicked off this planet, if they set that off, it would cause the matter of this planet to react with itself. In other words, it would break apart and explode. At the rate that it's going around the sun, it's a very high rate of speed if you judge it relative to the miles per hour. If it was blown up, it would expand out in that momentum around the sun into an asteroid belt, like the one we have between Mars and Jupiter. that would cause problems on such a staggering level. Billions of people off this planet would be negatively affected. And we on this planet do not have the right to do that. So that's one of the things that it is them to intervene.
Right.
But they've been very careful with this, because while they were, for instance, somebody in the Soviet Union, United States, actually pushed the button 12 different times during the Cold War to blow this planet up through a nuclear war. They actually pushed the button. One of the highest classified things. Every time they did that, and this is not the bad guys, a couple of saucers would hover over the main launch control computer in the United States and the Soviet Union, shut down their launch computers, and then fly away. No speech, no talk, not even tell anybody why they did it. And then they would turn the launch computers back on with the launch mode shut down. So as much as they're impressing people with nuclear holocaust here, the governments who build these bombs actually know they're never going to be allowed to use them.
Yeah. Well, that happened in 2008 as well. There was I can't remember the event. I believe they were moving nuclear bombs from one place to another, and the UFOs were there. And it seems like that's happened multiple times that I can remember in just news reports throughout my life, where there'd be something happening near a nuclear base or whatever, and they would be chasing UFOs. So it's quite clear, and for that reason, exactly that you said, that it doesn't just affect us; it affects everything. It's a vibration. It's a genetic mutation. It's all kinds of things.
Yeah. Now there's another reason. This planet is very unique in a couple other ways. It has a number of interdimensional doorways that are regulated. They're natural around a grid system around this planet. Some are on the ground, some on the bottom of the ocean, some in the atmosphere. And if you travel through one of these openings, and you go a short distance in that space and come out the other end, you'd be halfway across this galaxy. Another race would love to get a hold of those. They're guarded by spiritual adepts, to be honest with you. And you could call the most advanced extraterrestrial races, because here's the thing. Extraterrestrial. You're an extraterrestrial. The people listening are. No human being ever evolved on this planet. We didn't evolve from monkeys or from the primordial soup from the seas, ancient seas. This is by far not the oldest planet, and human beings evolved several billion years ago out in the galaxies and were brought here. That means every single being here has a heritage that they have been occluded. They don't remember their past life. They don't know how they got here. They're living their lives and paying taxes. They don't know where they're going. This is not normal for human beings. It's not normal.
I used to think about this stuff when I was a kid. It's like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, when I was a kid, like you, I just was like, this place does not make sense. Anywhere I went, it didn't make sense. It just, no part of it ever did. And, obviously it became clear at a certain point to me that I don't think I'm from here, but, that's what we all discover. You figure it out.
Well, people like you and many other people are more recently here from other worlds. You've more kindred spirit to other planetary systems and their states of consciousness than here. So when you step into a body here, who knows why you got here? Did God ordain you come here, or did a tyrant put you here? One of the primary implants, Wendy, is this. Stick it in, you use a low-frequency carrier wave, and you put a holographic, artificially created, terrorizing, tortured to death images in there. And then you tell this person, you put it in the subconscious, in the electromagnetic field, plug it in around your auric field. It doesn't even have to go in the brain.
Right.
Because your mind is not in your brain anyway. We'll get into that. Where is it? Okay. So they plug it into the electromagnetic field and say, incarnate life after life, unaware from life to life of everything that came before. This is how you create a slave labor force. You don't even need guard towers. Now, this has only been done in different ancient cultures in the past under treaty. There are also very benevolent beings in different bases, scientific bases, secretly placed inside mountains or on the bottom of the ocean on this planet for millions of years. These guys know when this polar shift occurs. One of the other things that the silent mentors are bringing, that the Say-Rays have the ability to institute now, is to permanently retire the polar shifts of this planet. That means human beings will be able to evolve here for millions of years uninterrupted. It also means that in our past, human beings could not evolve past a 100,000-year cycle and then wiped out.
Right.
Start over, reset. And every single time it had to be reseeded, recolonized. There's been 5 of those at least that I know of, and I was involved in the first 2 in my past. I'm most certainly not from here. From before here, I was from Andromeda, and before that, up in the upper plains. So I've had a long history. Long history of living.
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot of help. The Andromedan friends were responsible with this galactic alliance 500,000 years ago of defeating a more sinister white-winged reptilian race that came into this dimension from a parallel dimension. We talked about that. Used this technology, misused a benevolent technology to trap that reptilian race who were once vegetarian, bipedal reptiles. And they twisted them to be the terrorizing force, because like what they do with other races, this race always stayed in the background. Eventually it came to blows. There was a great war. That older reptilian race was kicked out of this reality. And I won't even go into the details. They cannot return. But the reptilian race that's here now have the implants in them to be the terrorizing monsters, the arrogant, vain, thoughtless, uncaring, higher and mightier than human beings type of attitude
Is this
that
the
they carry.
Draconians we're speaking of?
The who?
The Draconians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one word for them.
That's what I think most people, listening will know them as the Draconians.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Eisenhower was a good man. Truman was put in power by, he really idolized wealthy industrialists around the world, the elite.
Yeah.
And so he put into place, when he discovered there were extraterrestrials, he put into place and created the National Security Act so they could classify things and lie to everybody. Number one, they had to have a system to do that. Yeah. Came about, and the CIA were created by Truman 3 weeks after the Roswell crash. 3 weeks.
I did not know that.
And then Eisenhower stepped into the office, and here's this 5-star general. Can you imagine? Suddenly, he just got out of beating Hitler. Now we've got aliens? Extraterrestrials?
God bless.
The first group we met with were benevolent humans from other world systems, Pleiades and some other representatives. And they said to him, they knew there was a treaty, and they knew there were opposing forces out there at the time. They said, if you'll get rid of your nuclear weapons, because there's no constructive use for them, and in the radioactive isotopes they've created, if they get out of their lead container, kill everybody. And what do they use them for now? To boil water to make steam to drive turbines to make electricity. It costs 1/10 as much to drive steam plants or energy generating plants, current plants. It takes 1/10 as much to use natural gas to do that. And we are now, as announced yesterday in the papers and everything else, the #1 producer of natural gas in the world. We are now the #1 producer of oil in the world, just in the last few years.
Is this because of fracking?
These technologies are ultimately destructive to a planetary system. So they can't last. There's no future in them, no matter what anybody thinks. The extraterrestrial races don't use this kind of energy. They don't use polluting energy. They haven't for millions of years. So it's outlawed outside of this planet. If the secret space race program that was brought into existence along with the National Security Act, separate from NASA, separate from the public relations one, and there's been one going on ever since. If they think they're going to go out into the universe and plant an American flag and mine and take resources out, they got another thing coming, because that space is already occupied by more advanced people. There's no future to it. They can't go down the road they're going. We could get into things. You realize one of the things that they've done is had given to some anti-gravity technology. And they've reverse engineered this, and they've got a few craft given to them. And some pilots run these ships in our hidden military. They go to the backside of the moon, perfect place to have a base because nobody from Earth can see it. Yeah. The moon does not rotate on its axis. They go to Mars, they do this, but they're not capable of traveling on their own outside of this solar system. The pilots on Earth were never raised to have a multi-dimensional type of consciousness. When you plug into one of these craft, they're run telepathically. The only way they'll work, because you have to circumnavigate a multi-dimensional or multi-parallel dimensional structure of the universe. It isn't just traveling from planet to planet in a physical ship, because when you turn on an anti-gravity field, it raises the molecular time rate of the molecules that make up that craft. When people first started developing this out in our solar system, they lost a lot of pilots out in the solar system, out in the universe, because they would just disappear. They finally figured it out. Then they mapped out, and here's the thing, all over the universe there are openings. I'm not talking about black holes. Okay. That's too limiting. Okay. There are openings, natural vortexes, where one rate of frequency, like, say, the astral plane, vibrates very fast, is made of finer matter. There's a little relatively more freedom there. Then you come down into the 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe, and each level is vibrating at a slightly different time rate. The whole plane, that whole level of creation. The only way that higher dimensions, like a transformer, feed energy to and support an energy or a frequency or a dimension that's lower than the one above it is through these natural openings in creation. It's one time rate's going like this and one's going slower, and they come together and can create a vortex, like almost like the inside of a cyclone. And beings and craft can go up and down between these openings. If you go from here in an anti-gravity craft, because it has to create its own magnetic field to pass safely through these different frequencies, and you run up one of these openings and you know how to map them out, and you go a short distance in this higher frequency and come down another opening, you're clear across the galaxy.
Wow.
Way beyond light. So this is something that people in the hidden military-industrial complex on the planet understand. They don't understand the higher planes, but they do understand parallel dimensions, but they don't know how to get their pilots to travel between them, because it would require that the pilot does not have a subconscious mind, and our pilots have subconscious minds. What happens is the implants and the negative things in the when you try to run one of these ships telepathically, will kick in even though you're not aware of it. And any fear of the future or fear that you're carrying will guide that craft. And many pilots, this is in the United States, ran those prototype ships right into a mountainside, and they couldn't stop themselves. You can't run this kind of stuff way out there carrying this burden.
It makes sense.
People from other planets don't have that burden. So there is a certain limitation on how far this kind of a structure we have on this planet can go. And it can't go very far. It has no future. Nuclear weapons and nuclear radiation, radioactive materials have no future. They're nothing but destructive. And they figured that out many millions of years ago out there.
Yeah. Well, it feels like we're getting close, definitely, because I think we've, between Fukushima and everything that we've done just to erode, from the chemicals to everything else, I mean, we can't keep going like this. I know that. Trying to get everyone else to understand that, you know, it's not even going to come to a choice at some point. And we seem to be getting to that point. Now, whether we're reaching, you know, whether Mother Earth herself, whether Gaia is getting to that singularity, that point of transmutation where we will ascend to that higher frequency that you speak of, you know, overnight shifting, I don't know. It sounds like there's a catalyst that has to happen here any minute.
You can't. Human beings on this planet are not capable collectively of doing this. You're right. It's fantasy. They don't have that ability anymore to work together and rise up against their tyrant. Tyrants know that. They're fully aware of the fact that they keep people divided. Try to get two UFO researchers to work together. Go ahead, try it. Try to get two people from coast to coast to work together. You can't do it.
I know.
They know that. As long as you can keep people in doubt about anything they hear or see on the internet or experience, you can control them. A normal human being knows truth with certainty, without doubt or fear.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's an inner knowing. You can't help it.
Eisenhower, to get back to this story,
yes,
first met with benevolent human beings who offered him this opportunity. He knew he couldn't get the Soviet Union to give up nuclear bombs research or anybody else. So just out of the sheer terror of meeting beings who really uplifted him, and he liked them, because they uplifted him and his generals. That's not the problem. The problem is if we gave up nuclear weapons, they said they would come here, give us spacecraft, give us technology, get rid of disease, transform the planets, make us a member of this alliance, and your children could have gone on field trips to other planets already. They could have done this. But they are not, and it is not their nature to force their way on other beings like tyrants. So Eisenhower and his generals had to turn it down because it meant that everybody on Earth would have to agree to give up radioactive materials and nuclear weapons together, collectively. That's their law. They don't allow them to be built or manufactured outside of this planet, unless you're some kind of a tyrant race. You still there?
Yeah, my computer's telling me something. I'm not quite sure. I think it's going to take us down to a lower rate. It's just the amount of time of the call, the recorder is having trouble. Go on. We'll just see what happens. It seems to be fine. We can always
pick it up. If we need to, we can pick it up. If you fix your computer or whatever, it's no problem.
It doesn't.
Okay, so
yeah, go ahead.
So Eisenhower met, what people don't know, under treaty. He met with another group a few months later, and they were reptilian, and they scared the hell out of him. And they were arrogant and haughty. And they told him, look, we'll give you some of our technology. We want to do some experiments, some DNA samples from your populace. Of course, he turned it down. But this guy was very clever. And he said to Eisenhower, well, if you don't make a treaty with us to get what you're after, we don't care if you give up nuclear weapons, then we'll go to the Soviet Union, to the premier, and we'll make them the preeminent power on Earth. They blackmailed him. What he didn't know is they were in the Soviet Union at the same time doing the same thing. This is where this all started. So he was not a happy man later in life because he made a treaty with a tyrant imperial bloodline type of race to get this technology. And they're in bed with this race underground and some others. And that's not an easy problem to solve. We can't solve it. It's going to have to happen from, I don't want to call them older brothers and sisters because most of us are very old souls anyway. Just don't remember it. But it's going to have to be done by a very large organization of world systems in a practical way who have the tools to extricate us from this problem without death and destruction. That's what's been holding this up all this time. Knowing how to do that. So when people read the Terrorize agenda, they will go on a journey of remembering, discovering how this all came about.
You know what? I
That's
don't
important.
even like reading, Scott. I take information in intuitively. I'll be, information comes within me, through me, and then someone will say, oh, you sound like this book. So then I'll go get that book and I'll open it up and I'll sort of, okay, I can buy this book. And then I just hold on to it. I don't ever really read it until a moment comes and I go, I think I have a book on that somewhere. And then I further inform my mind of the technical information that I've already, intuited and absorbed. But I'm telling you, I am so excited about your book. I want to read whatever you put out, Scott. And I don't say that lightly.
Let's take this a step further. Are you still recording or did you lose your recording ability?
No, I'm still recording. Everything's still recording.
And here's what we should do for your listeners, for anybody that may be tuned into this right now, you, your family, everyone that might hear this. What we're going to do right now is a kind of a channel. It's not my channel. I don't own it. I don't possess it. I don't control it. It's not a tyrant. It isn't a being. It is an omnipresent spiritual force, for lack of using better terms, or omnipresent energy field that underlies and supports everything. kind of like what the CERN Super Collider people in Switzerland call the God particle. And we're made of it. And we're comprised of spherical shaped energy beings, really. And we're supposed to be able to get in and out of our bodies and know that we're just here to gain experience. We're not supposed to be trapped in them. Okay, that said, this ancient primordial special hue vibratory word. Do you remember in the Om that came out of India, people were trying to use Om to raise their vibration? When you do it and pay attention to it, it vibrates the throat and the chest area. It's all good. It tries to open the heart, but it's in the lower planes. It doesn't get to the higher worlds. The hue comes from the planes above the void of the Buddhists, our original home. When you hue, it begins to connect or wake up the very center of your being, that which cannot be perverted or twisted, despite what's surrounding it. And it plugs it into the source where all this energy that supports and sustains life comes from. And there's a certain protection that goes along with this. It isn't native to Earth. It isn't even native to the physical universe. It's older than planets. So when people begin to utilize it, and we're together, say, 5 times, what people do is simply take a time in the day or at night where they won't be disturbed for 10 or 15 minutes. That's it. And then, you still okay?
I think so.
Okay. You're going to send out this hue in a comfortable tone with your vocal cords aloud. If you're with some people at dinner, on a bus, you can do it just in your imagination silently and it will still work. It doesn't have to be out loud. Don't ever let that be a limitation, because people will begin to experience the protection and set of circumstances in their life that go along with this. They need their own experience with it, not me telling them.
Right.
It's their own connection that begins here. Okay, the only thing the hue can connect anybody to, first of all, it doesn't connect anyone to the psychic arena, or the astral plane, or the causal plane, or the mental plane. It doesn't connect people to the planes where the dual current, good and bad, run through, positive and negative. It connects you, the conscious awareness begins to wake up in the surface of your awareness of what you really are at the core of your being and have always been. And then it begins to wake up what the person's co-creative real destiny is as a being. And this is true for anybody in any world system, anywhere in creation. It doesn't matter which dimension they're on. It's the same for everyone. Except there's something new in this hue now that was not there before. Something that was brought into creation to retire evil as an experiment on Earth. Because that's all it is. Goes back a long ways. And it's never been effective in accomplishing spiritual growth or people becoming gods amongst the great God. In fact, it has not worked like it was intended or thought it would work from day one, and that's billions of years old. So if you come up with something better, why keep using it? If you come up with something to take its place that will work far better, why keep using the old system? This goes a lot deeper than I will talk about on one show, but all of what I do goes very deep into the spirituality of our eternal nature, which other beings know and are awake about. They don't have to evolve to be some super guru. Each and every one of them is already awake and aware. When a child's born on one of these other worlds that I'm talking about, in our Milky Way galaxy, right here in the physical universe, that child grows up with a fiery passion. They can leave their bodies anyway, but they grow up with a fiery passion to learn science and medicine and ecology and astronomy and everything about space and other dimensions. They grow up with a fiery passion to create and invent things that will be of benefit to all life and not just on their worlds. That's a normal human.
Awesome.
You know that.
It's awesome.
That's a normal human being.
Awesome.
Okay? They grow up, by the time they're 10 years old, remember they live 1,000 years, up to 20,000 years or more if they have a purpose for staying around with that one body. That's not a problem for them. They grow up, by the time they're 10, they have equivalent of 7 to 9 PhDs compared to a person on Earth. Remember, we're supposed to use 6 to 10% of our brain. That's another genome or two that's been shut down, so you can't access it. You have 100% brain, use 100% like a normal person. If we used 100% of the brain we have 100% of, we wouldn't have any problem, especially with knowing things, you know? So all of this stuff has to be turned back on and has to be done carefully with a lot of love, with a lot of protection, with millions and millions and millions of beings from other world systems. Unbelievable advanced experts in their fields, in science, sociology, psychology, because the real psychology is get rid of the subconscious mind, you don't have problems.
That makes sense.
That's the only way you can't have a problem.
Yeah.
You know? So we're going to do this hue.
Okay.
A person would get quiet in a chair, comfortable, or laying on their back on a bed. Take several deep breaths, which we'll do right now. Just relaxing breaths. And each time you exhale, imagine putting all your concerns about your health, your age, children, family, work, poverty, starving, anything, just for this time. We know they're still there. We're going to pick them back up and deal with them, but we're going to put them on a shelf. Fear for the future is a great one. Put it on a shelf. It's not being irresponsible. We're just putting it aside to open this door. And we have that ability to do this. Doesn't matter what implants are there. And then, imagine someone or something, a cat, a dog, a child, a waterfall, a bird, a car. It doesn't matter as long as you have gratitude for it. And then we're going to send out a hue, one hue. Take a nice, comfortable breath, pick a tone of your choice, and we're going to, it sounds like this. H-U, like the word name Hugh, H-U-G-H, Hugh.
I've been toning with it, and I've been trying to find, I've been toning with it since I first heard your Norway video, and you demonstrated it on that, and I do sound healing as well, and it's in a very strange place. I'm trying to really get to that overtone with it, and I must say I do have difficulty finding it. I can't, you know, I love listening to you. You tone it so beautifully and full, and I can feel the activation just through you.
Yeah, 35 years of practice.
It's awesome. I have a lot more practice to do.
It's not going to take people that kind of time now because of the way things have been accelerated through the new ray I talk about. Okay, that was just my background to get to where I am now. It's not everybody else. They don't need to do this. You don't need to work for this lifetime and 10 lifetimes to become adept at your own spirituality, your own being, to be a loving, kind co-creator with all benevolent beings that are out there. We're already like that. We know that. But we need the stuff that's in our subconscious removed so that it doesn't interfere with us anymore. So let's who we are come to the surface.
Will you do me one favor and do that tone one more time?
Sure.
I'm going to step out of the way so that if somebody wants to be able to record just this and tone with it until they, you know, because that's what I want to do with it. So go for it.
Okay. Remember to picture someone or something you love. And here's something we're going to do before we do this you. It's very important. It's a construct of words, almost a holographic series of images that are telling the very source behind all life and all the beings that know how to operate in it. It's like an SOS, and they hear it. It vibrates only the head upward, or the pineal gland, the cranium upward. You'll notice that. It's very important.
Yeah.
Here's what we send out when we do a hue or two. Here's what we say. I mean, this is really important. Safely show me purposefully hidden truth on a grand cosmic multidimensional scale and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it, then I'm going to do it. Pause. It's good to pause a few moments between each one just to look and see what's happening. You don't try to have to make anything happen. We're going to do it 3 more times. There's a reason for that number. Remember, when you're looking, if you're trying to find an overtone, listen for the shrill, very faint, very high tone of a flute above the sound you make with your vocal cords. And the same if you're doing it silently inside. And you'll get it. You'll connect with it. You'll hear the sound current. You'll hear the stuff coming off these other planes. Now here's the thing. Events and technologies and things you need in order to step further in towards having the most dynamic experience of having all implants permanently removed. It's a gradual process, but there is a point that comes when you have to go visit somewhere to have it undone. This just begins that process and provides you with the safety you need, the protection to get there, despite what else is going on Earth, because there are beings and things out there that know how to do this. Yeah. We don't on Earth anymore, but they do. This will connect you with those beings. It is impossible for the you to connect anybody to anything negative, a negative technology, hidden military industrial complex, or their agents, or off-world tyrants. People that have had those kinds of experiences find that they dissolve away and don't return. So this is important for people to experience for themselves.
Yeah, no,
that's pretty much what I have to do here.
Incredible. This is incredible. No,
if you do it for 10 or 15 minutes a night before bed, tell yourself when you're done, 10 or 15 minutes of this hewing, you're going to feel uplifted. You're going to feel things opening. Tell yourself you are going to remember more every morning about where you go and what you do while you're out of your body, while your body is in the trance state called sleep. Pineal gland secretes melatonin and serotonin to put the body on automatic when you leave it. This is what people are doing, and they don't remember. See what I mean? So it's awesome. This will really help this area a great deal. If people use this for just 15 to 30 days. For an adult, it takes that long to get some of these loosened up more. Yeah. You're going to get the protection anyway. But 15 to 30 days, 10 or 15 minutes a night is not asking too much.
No.
And you'll also exercise, the person actually exercises their higher faculties to the surface despite the implants. And you get help.
Excellent.
Because then you're strengthening your faculty muscles.
Sure.
Along with gaining the wisdom of how to use these faculties properly. Very important.
This is such important information, Scott. I'm so grateful for you sharing this with us. And this conversation is not enough, and we will definitely have to do more. I'm just reticent at this point to keep going because I'm not sure if something happened or not. I think that it's okay.
If it isn't, we'll do it again.
Well, you are so gracious, and let's just cross our fingers that everything is streamlined. But
Don't hesitate to contact me if something technically went wrong. We can do this again. I have no problem
Scott,
with it.
I hope to integrate you into my friendship circle because I really adore you. You're a fabulous person. You offer something that is so incredibly vital. Oh, thank you. I'm really excited for your book, too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You can see that in me. You're seeing it in yourself. This is truth. It can't be otherwise. Been invited. Ted Marr of the Out of This World radio show in Washington, a good friend, is sponsoring a Galactic Wisdom Conference on the 6th through the 8th in March next month.
Cool.
At the Gig at Inn Harbor, Inn at Gig Harbor near Seattle. So it's for the weekend. I'll be one of the speaker presenters there, taking people on a personal experiential journey to begin to unravel this and connect with it for themselves, because I don't know how else to do it. Yeah. Like Norway.
Right.
So that's I don't know why I had to go through Norway, but that's the first one I did. Yeah, and the website is galacticwisdomconference.com.
Okay, I think I've been seeing something about this, so I'll definitely put a ticker at the bottom of our conversation here, so people can have that information available.
Yeah. There'll be some interesting people there. It's different than Norway. Jerry Wills will be there again. I will be, and a number of other mediums and psychics and stuff, because that's Ted's background. But it's definitely a hidden truth revealing conference.
Well, anything.
That's what I would. Galactic wisdom,
Yeah, I was going to say galactic wisdom. Anything with galactic wisdom is going to be awesome.
Go to the Mount Shasta conference in August.
Oh.
That Robert Potter's sponsoring again. I'll be one of the speaker presenters there, and Nick Onick will be there. If you know anything about her.
Oh yes, I saw her in your video.
Yeah, we're friends, goes back a long ways. I'm not from Venus. I'm from very farther out of town.
Sure.
That's her gig, She talks straight to make it local. I'm more of like galactic kind of what's going on behind the scenes kind of guy. Get people waking up to the bigger picture out there, because they certainly have the capability to know it again and understand it, even circumnavigate it.
I think so. The time is now for sure. There's no doubt about it. I'm gonna.
Come on. The next time you want me on your show, I'll be there.
Are you kidding? Tomorrow. Let me just turn this off, and then I want to say goodbye. Go ahead. What? I
say just send me an email. Paralleltime.com is my website. I don't take anybody's credit cards or payments. It goes right to the publishing company, and they do all that. It connects links to Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I would try to get people to go to Barnes & Noble, because Barnes & Noble stock in a central warehouse. They actually ship it right away, and they don't play games like Amazon teams to do and claiming there's only 2 books and we're out of stock. They don't print or stock my book.
Are you kidding?
It comes from England, which publishes and prints all the books for most of the major publishers. And so it's never out of stock. So you can go out wherever you're comfortable to get the book, but they can go there and get it on an ebook or a trade paperback, either one. And it will definitely help open some doors, because it comes with a certain energy. It's important that people experience that for themselves.
Yeah, well, just to have a copy, just to have a copy for themselves, and to be able to read it at night over and over and over again. That's so important. To just ingrain it and make that imprint within their consciousness towards their original human design and what we are all going to eventually come to the realizations of. Thank you so much, Scott. Anything else that you want to say?
Just want to say that people want to do the hue that heard this show tonight. 10 or 15 minutes, like I demonstrated. Within 30 days, they most certainly will have profound experiences. That much I can guarantee.
Oh, I know it's true. I've already experienced that.
None of the negative stuff.
No.
It doesn't go there.
No.
It can't go there.
And that's important to know, that everybody says.
I should say, blessings be.
Blessings be. I like that. You are awesome, honey. Thank you so much.
Bye for now.